Alex shifted uncomfortably in his seat, designed for a body structure very different from human anatomy. The classroom aboard Galactic Academy Station Orion 7 buzzed with the sounds of 24 different species communicating in their native tongues, all translated through the small device in his ear. Professor Toril, a tall being with iridescent scales and 4 eyes, gestured toward Alex with one of his upper limbs. "We have a new addition to our xenobiology course. A representative from Sol 3, classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. Please introduce yourself." Alex stood, feeling the stares of his alien classmates. Some leaned away slightly, while others peered at him with extra eyes or sensing organs. "I'm Alex, from Earth, Sol 3. This is my first semester at the Academy." He tried to keep his voice steady, aware that to many in this room, he was basically a monster from a nightmare planet. A small, fuzzy creature with enormous eyes raised a delicate appendage. "Professor, is it safe to have a Deathworlder in our learning space?" Its voice was musical but concerned. Professor Toril's mouthparts shifted in what Alex had learned was their equivalent of a smile. "Kip, your concern is noted, but humans have proven themselves to be peaceful members of the Galactic Confederation. They are remarkably adaptable." "Adaptable?" A blue-skinned amphibious being named Mora spoke up, gill flaps pulsing with skepticism. "Their world should have killed them. I've read that Sol 3 has crushing gravity, toxic oxygen concentrations, and extreme temperature variations." Alex cleared his throat. "Our gravity is only 9.8 meters per second squared. It's comfortable to us." "Comfortable?" Dex, a 6-limbed student with compound eyes, leaned forward. "That's nearly twice the galactic average for inhabited worlds." "I guess so," Alex replied. "We also have seasons, where temperatures can range from -50 to +50 degrees Celsius depending on location." The classroom erupted in astonished chatter. Professor Toril had to wave all 4 arms for silence. "Alex," the professor said, "perhaps you could share a personal experience that demonstrates human adaptability? Something your classmates might find illuminating." Alex thought for a moment. "When I was 10, a hurricane hit our coastal town. That's a massive rotating storm with winds over 150 kilometers per hour and flooding rain." The classroom went utterly silent. Even Professor Toril's scales seemed to pale. "My family took shelter in our reinforced basement. The power grid failed. For 3 days, we sat in darkness as winds tore apart buildings and floodwaters rose. We could hear trees snapping like twigs outside." Kip's fur stood on end. How did you survive?" "We prepared. Stored food, water, medical supplies. After the storm passed, our neighborhood worked together to clear debris and rebuild. It's just something humans do." Alex shrugged. "Most of us have stories like this." A futuristic classroom filled with diverse alien students, all displaying shock, fear, or awe. At the front of the room, a confident human student stands, gesturing towards a holographic display showing Earth's dangerous wildlife and extreme environments. The hologram features a ferocious beast, like a lion, shark, or snake, and a burning wasteland, emphasizing Earth's brutal survival conditions. The alien students have wide eyes and anxious expressions. The scene is well lit with a sci-fi aesthetic, featuring glowing blue and white neon lights. Title on thumbnail, Earth Survival. Ensure the text is bold and easy to read. The characters should look highly realistic, with detailed expressions. The image should be 16:9 in size for a YouTube thumbnail. The Academy's central atrium hummed with the usual between-class chaos, hovering study platforms, translucent communication screens, and hundreds of diverse alien species navigating the space. Alex sat alone at a corner table, carefully organizing notes for his upcoming presentation. "Is this space occupied?" A melodic voice interrupted his concentration. Alex looked up to see Dex, the six-limbed student from his xenobiology class, gesturing to the empty seats with 3 of his appendages simultaneously. "Not at all," Alex replied, moving his materials to make room. Dex settled across from him, compound eyes reflecting the atrium's lighting in a kaleidoscope of colors. "I've been researching Earth since our last class. Your planet's defense mechanisms are remarkable." Alex tilted his head. "Defense mechanisms? Your predators, microscopic pathogens, weather systems." Dex's mandibles clicked with excitement. "On my homeworld, the most dangerous thing is a mild acid rain every 8th cycle." Before Alex could respond, a small shadow fell across the table. It was Kip, the diminutive, fuzzy being who had questioned his presence in class. "May I join?" Kip's enormous eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of nervousness in their species. "I have questions." Alex nodded, and Kip carefully climbed onto a seat designed for much larger beings. Several other students from xenobiology class noticed the gathering and drifted over, including Mora, the skeptical amphibian. "Is it true," Mora asked without preamble, gill flaps pulsing, "that humans intentionally submerge themselves in frozen water?" Professor Torrell mentioned something called ice swimming. Alex couldn't help but smile. "Some do, yes. There are competitions for it." The small crowd around him erupted in a mixture of gasps, clicks, and untranslatable exclamations. "But surely that would cause system shock and death." A tall, insectoid being chittered. "It's uncomfortable, but with training, humans can handle it. Our bodies are pretty adaptable to temperature changes." Mora's webbed hand pressed against the table. "And fires? Your world experiences uncontrolled combustion events regularly?" "Wildfires, yes. Some ecosystems even depend on them to rejuvenate." The questions continued, each answer seeming to both horrify and fascinate his audience. Alex found himself explaining earthquakes, tornadoes, venomous creatures, and diseases, each explanation met with increasing disbelief. "What most non-humans don't understand," Alex explained, "is that danger shaped us. We evolved not just to survive these things, but sometimes to seek them out." "Seek them out?" Kip squeaked. "Voluntarily?" Alex nodded. "Rock climbing, deep-sea diving, wilderness exploration. Humans often find meaning in facing challenges that could harm us." A shadow fell across their table. Professor Torrell stood observing the impromptu gathering with all 4 eyes blinking in sequence, their species' expression of approval. "I see our newest student has become quite popular," the professor noted. "Perhaps, Alex, you would consider expanding your presentation to include this concept of recreational danger?" Alex nodded. "I'd be happy to, Professor." As Professor Torrell moved away, Mora leaned forward, blue skin glistening under the atrium lights. "There's something I don't understand," she said, her translator barely keeping up with her rapid speech. "If your world is so hazardous, how did humans develop art, music, literature? Survival would consume all resources." Alex considered this. "Maybe it's because of the danger, not despite it. When you live knowing everything could change in an instant, you learn to find beauty in the moment." The group fell silent, contemplating his words. "In my research," Dex said finally, "I found references to human disaster response teams who intentionally move toward danger to help others. Is this accurate?" "Absolutely," Alex replied. Firefighters run into burning buildings. Paramedics rush to accident scenes. Search and rescue teams go into avalanche zones or collapsed structures. But why risk multiple lives?" Kip's fur rippled with confusion. "Because to us, every life has value," Alex said simply. "We don't leave people behind if there's any chance to save them." As the warning chime for next period sounded, the gathered students reluctantly dispersed. Alex gathered his notes, noticing how differently his classmates now regarded him. No longer just a curiosity from a death world, but someone with insights worth hearing. That night, as Alex refined his presentation, he realized he wasn't just explaining Earth, he was helping them understand what it meant to be human. The xenobiology lab gleamed with advanced technology. Holographic displays projected three-dimensional models of various species while environmental chambers simulated diverse planetary conditions along the walls. Today, the chamber labeled SOL-3 glowed an ominous red, its readings far outside the comfort parameters of most galactic citizens. Alex stood before the class, trying not to appear nervous. The small device projecting his presentation hovered beside him, ready to display images that would likely shock his audience. Today, he began, I'll be discussing human adaptations to Earth's environmental challenges, with a focus on extreme weather events. Professor Torrell nodded encouragingly from the back of the room. Please proceed, Alex. With a gesture, Alex activated the first projection, a towering wall of churning dark clouds advancing across a landscape. This is a supercell thunderstorm approaching a human settlement, he explained. They can produce winds exceeding 150 kilometers per hour, hail the size of your fist, and electrical discharges powerful enough to vaporize sand into glass. Kip's fur stood on end. You live with such phenomena? We've built our civilization around them, Alex replied. Our structures are designed to withstand these forces, and we've developed early warning systems to prepare. He swiped to the next image, a neighborhood reduced to splinters after a tornado. Several students made distressed sounds through their various breathing apparatuses. Sometimes our preparations aren't enough, Alex admitted. But humans are remarkably resilient. After destruction, we rebuild, often stronger than before. Mora raised a webbed hand. If these storms are so devastating, why not relocate populations to safer regions? Every region has its dangers, Alex responded. Coastal areas face hurricanes and tsunamis. Plains have tornadoes. Mountains have avalanches and landslides. Forests have wildfires. There's no completely safe place on Earth. Yet your species thrives, Professor Torrell observed. Fascinating. Alex nodded and continued through his presentation, showing floods, droughts, blizzards, and heat waves. With each image, he explained not just the danger, but humanity's response, both technological solutions and cultural adaptations. What's most interesting, Alex said, approaching his conclusion, is how these threats shaped human psychology. We develop strong communal bonds because survival often depends on helping each other. Dex's compound eyes reflected the current image, people forming a human chain to rescue someone from floodwaters. Is this behavior universal among humans? Dex asked. This willingness to risk personal safety for others? Not universal, but common, Alex replied. Most humans feel a strong drive to help others in danger, even strangers. Professor Torrell stepped forward. This explains much about human diplomatic behavior in the Confederation. Your species consistently advocates for emergency response protocols that other species find excessive. The class murmured in agreement. Humans had a reputation for insisting on comprehensive disaster contingencies that many considered paranoid. Before we conclude, Professor Torrell said, would you mind demonstrating your species' physical adaptations? Perhaps your temperature regulation or oxygen processing? Alex hesitated before nodding. He stepped into the environmental chamber labeled SOL-3. The door sealed behind him with a hiss, and the chamber's interior conditions adjusted to match Earth's atmosphere and gravity. Through the transparent walls, the class watched as Alex moved comfortably in conditions that would cause respiratory distress or skeletal damage to most of them. He performed simple exercises, jumping, running in place, lifting a weighted object, all while maintaining normal breathing patterns. When he emerged, even Mora looked impressed. What you just observed, Professor Torrell explained to the class, is a human functioning in what most species would consider emergency survival conditions. Their musculoskeletal density, cardiovascular efficiency, and neural response times are all adaptations to Earth's harsh environment. As class ended, students crowded around Alex with new questions, their initial fear replaced by scientific curiosity. Even Kip approached, though still maintaining a cautious distance. I researched your hurricanes after last class, Kip admitted. How do humans remain calm knowing such forces exist? Alex considered the question carefully. I think it's because facing threats together gives us perspective. When you've survived something terrible as a community, daily problems seem smaller. Walking back to his quarters that evening, Alex realized something had shifted. For the first time since arriving at the academy, he felt pride in his Deathworlder heritage instead of self-consciousness. Perhaps being from Earth wasn't just about surviving against odds, it was about the unique strength, resilience, and compassion that had evolved alongside that survival instinct. As the class listened with rapt attention, Jax continued sharing incredible tales of human resilience and survival in Earth's unforgiving environments. In the scorching deserts, where temperatures regularly soar above 50 degrees Celsius (122 degrees Fahrenheit), humans have devised ingenious ways to find water and shelter, Jax explained. Some dig deep wells to tap underground aquifers. Others collect dew using special nets or build solar stills to extract moisture from the air itself. The alien students marveled at the adaptability and resourcefulness of Earth's inhabitants. On their own mild homeworlds, such extreme measures were unheard of. And in Earth's frozen polar regions, Jax went on, humans face the opposite challenge, surviving sub-zero temperatures that can plummet to -80 degrees Celsius (-112 degrees Fahrenheit) with howling blizzards and months of total darkness each winter. Yet even there, indigenous peoples have thrived for millennia, crafting warm clothing from animal furs, building insulated shelters, and hunting marine mammals through holes in the sea ice. Gasps of amazement rippled through the classroom. The thought of any species deliberately living in such lethal conditions seemed almost inconceivable to the sheltered extraterrestrial youths. Bolstered by his classmates' positive reaction, Jax pressed on with story after story showcasing humanity's tenacious spirit, from tribes in Earth's rainforests expertly navigating the dense jungle to nomadic herders eking out a living on the high steppes of Central Asia. We've even voluntarily explored the depths of our oceans and the vacuum of space in our quest to expand our horizons, Jax added proudly. Make no mistake, we humans are the ultimate survivors, shaped by our planet's crucible to overcome any obstacle in our path. As Jax concluded his impassioned tales, one thing was clear to his awestruck audience: humans were nothing like the primitive savages they had been led to expect. Instead, these Deathworlders were an exceptional species indeed, a force to be reckoned with even on a galactic stage. Jax's vivid accounts of human fortitude left the classroom buzzing with animated discussion long after he finished speaking. His classmates crowded around him, peppering the Earthling student with follow-up questions about his remarkable species. How do humans deal with all the venomous creatures on your world? One wide-eyed alien asked. I heard that even tiny insects like ants can kill with a single sting. Jax chuckled at the exaggeration. Well, it's true that we have our fair share of dangerous critters, but we've learned to coexist with them over time. Most humans know to avoid disturbing venomous animals and to seek medical help if bitten or stung. Our scientists have also developed antivenom treatments for many species. What about natural disasters? Another student chimed in. With all those extreme environments, Earth must experience a lot of devastating events. You're right, Jax acknowledged. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, floods, wildfires, we see them all. But we've become quite adept at predicting and preparing for these calamities. We have early warning systems, robust infrastructure, and well-rehearsed emergency response plans to minimize the loss of life. As the impromptu Q&A session stretched on, even Professor Zorg found himself listening intently, his earlier skepticism fading away. The old academic had to admit that this human was painting a compelling picture of a species tempered by adversity into something truly extraordinary. Suddenly, a shrill alarm pierced the air, jolting the classroom back to the present. Red lights flashed as an automated voice announced, "Meteor impact imminent. Brace for potential loss of hull integrity." Panic erupted among the students, many of whom had never experienced a serious emergency before. They jumped from their seats, unsure of what to do or where to go. But Jax remained calm, his survival instincts kicking into gear. "Everyone, stay low and find cover," he shouted over the din, "get under your desks and shield your heads." Spurred by the Earthling's authoritative tone, the class quickly complied, huddling beneath their workstations as the station shook violently around them. Loose objects flew through the air, and the lights flickered ominously. Through it all, Jax moved from student to student, offering words of reassurance and checking for any injuries. His steady presence was a beacon of hope amidst the chaos, a testament to the unflappable resilience he had spent the last hour describing. After what felt like an eternity, the shaking subsided, and the alarms fell silent. A few tentative heads poked out from under the desks, surveying the damage with shell-shocked expressions. "Is everyone all right?" Professor Zorg called out, his normally gruff voice tinged with concern. One by one, the students emerged from their hiding spots, shaken but unharmed. Their eyes quickly found Jax, who was already moving to help a classmate trapped under a fallen shelf. As he heaved the debris aside with surprising strength, Jax grinned at his awestruck peers. "See? Just another day in the life of a Deathworlder." In that moment, as the class looked upon their human classmate with newfound respect and admiration, one thing was abundantly clear: Earth had shaped Jax into a true leader, a beacon of hope in the face of any challenge the universe could throw at him. In the aftermath of the meteor impact, the space station buzzed with activity as crews worked to assess the damage and make repairs. Professor Zorg and his students were evacuated to a secure shelter area, where they huddled together in uneasy silence. Jax, however, wasted no time in springing into action. Drawing upon his Earthling resourcefulness, he began to inventory their supplies and organize the group to make the most of their limited resources. "We need to ration our food and water," Jax explained calmly. "No telling how long we might be stuck here. I'll take charge of distributing meals. And let's set up a rotation for sleeping and keeping watch, just in case." The other students marveled at Jax's take-charge attitude, their fear slowly giving way to a sense of hope and purpose. Under his guidance, they settled into a makeshift routine, waiting out the crisis with a newfound sense of unity. As the hours stretched on, Jax regaled his classmates with even more tales of human ingenuity in the face of adversity. He spoke of great explorers who charted new frontiers, of brilliant scientists who unlocked the secrets of the universe, and of everyday heroes who risked their lives to save others. Listening to these stories, the alien students began to see Jax, and humanity as a whole, in a new light. No longer were they just upstart Deathworlders, but rather a species to be admired and respected for their tenacity and indomitable spirit. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the shelter doors hissed open, revealing a haggard-looking Professor Zorg. "The station is secure," he announced wearily. "We can return to our quarters now." As the group filed out of the shelter, Zorg pulled Jax aside. "I must admit, I had my doubts about you at first," the old alien confessed. "But the way you handled yourself during this crisis, and the way you've opened our eyes to the true nature of your species, it's nothing short of remarkable." Jax shrugged modestly. "I only did what any human would do in that situation. We're survivors, through and through." Zorg nodded thoughtfully. "Indeed you are. And I believe it's high time the rest of the galaxy learned to see humanity as you do, not as primitive savages, but as a force to be reckoned with." As Jax rejoined his classmates, he couldn't help but feel a swell of pride at how far he had come. In the span of a single day, he had shattered stereotypes, forged new bonds of friendship, and proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that humans were truly a species like no other. The road ahead would be long and challenging, as humanity continued to make its mark on the galactic stage. But with their unbreakable spirit and boundless potential, Jax knew that there was no limit to what his fellow Earthlings could achieve. In the days and weeks that followed the meteor impact, word of Jax's heroic actions spread like wildfire throughout the space station. Students and faculty alike sought out the Earthling, eager to hear more about his remarkable homeworld and the indomitable spirit of its inhabitants. Jax found himself at the center of a newfound appreciation for humanity, with many of his once skeptical classmates now looking to him as a leader and role model. Even Professor Zorg, who had initially dismissed Jax as just another primitive Deathworlder, now spoke of the human with a tone of respect and admiration. As the station returned to normalcy, Jax continued to share stories of Earth's triumphs over adversity, from the great civilizations that rose from humble beginnings to the everyday acts of courage and resilience that defined the human experience. And with each tale, he could see the perceptions of his alien peers shifting, their eyes opening to the true potential of his species. But Jax knew that his work was far from over. Earth was still a mystery to much of the galaxy, its reputation tarnished by centuries of misconceptions and fear-mongering. If humanity was ever truly going to take its place among the stars, it would need more ambassadors like him, Deathworlders willing to bridge the gap between cultures and show the universe what Earthlings were really made of. And so, as he looked out upon the vast expanse of space from the station's observation deck, Jax made a silent vow. He would continue to be a champion for his people, sharing their stories and their strengths with any who would listen. He would forge new alliances, break down old barriers, and pave the way for a future in which humans and aliens could stand together as equals. It would not be an easy path. There would be challenges and setbacks, those who would resist the idea of a united galaxy. But Jax had faced worse odds before, and he knew in his heart that the indomitable human spirit would always find a way to triumph in the end. For he was a Deathworlder, a child of Earth, and there was no force in the universe that could stand against the combined might of human determination and ingenuity. As the stars twinkled in the vast expanse above, Jax smiled to himself, ready to embrace the adventure that lay ahead. The future was bright, and humanity's place in the cosmos was waiting to be claimed.